The night I called the police on my own granddaughter's son-in-law, I thought I was doing the one clean thing left in a family that had started to rot from the inside. By sunrise, I had an envelope in my hand with Marina's name on it, shoved behind a dryer. Inside were ultrasound pictures with no hospital watermark, no patient ID, no date. Perfect little images that looked real until you stared too long. By noon, the man I had reported was sitting across from me at my kitchen table, eyes bloodshot, voice breaking, telling me the pregnancy was not real. And by the end of that week, we were standing in the back of a rented hall, watching a line of women in fake bellies file into a charity brunch like they were clocking in for a shift, while my granddaughter stood at the front with a microphone and a smile that did not belong on a human face. I need you to understand something before you judge what I did next. I'm 72. I worked nearly 4 decades in inspections and compliance. You learn to read people the way you read smoke. You learn which cracks are harmless and which ones mean the whole structure is about to give way. And I still let my own blood run a con on me. It started with a call that should have been ordinary. Marina's number flashed on my phone at 6:12 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember because I'd just turned the stove down, and my kitchen smelled like onions and butter. A safe smell. A normal smell. Her voice sounded thin. "Grandpa?" she said. "Can you come over? I need you." I was in my truck before she finished the sentence. Marina has been my soft spot since the day she was born. She learned to ride a bike in my driveway. She learned to swing a hammer in my garage. When she was small, she used to fall asleep against my shoulder during old movies and tell me I was the only man who never scared her. That night, when I walked into her living room, she was on the couch with her feet up and one hand resting on her stomach. A pregnant stomach. I froze in the doorway. I hadn't even known. The room looked staged in a way I couldn't name at first. Curtains pulled open wide. A bottle of prenatal vitamins on the table, turned label out like a product shot. A glass of water. A throw blanket folded neatly across the armrest. And standing behind her, leaning on the wall like he owned the place, was Caleb. Caleb wasn't her husband. He was her son-in-law. He married Marina's daughter Tessa 3 years earlier. I never warmed to him. He smiled too fast, spoke too loud, always seemed to be performing. He nodded at me like we were already on the same team. "Sir," he said, "thanks for coming." Marina's eyes looked wet, but not swollen, like she'd practiced tears without crying. "I didn't want to tell anyone yet," she whispered, "but Caleb said we have to. Caleb said we're running out of time." "How far along?" I asked. She hesitated a fraction of a second, then answered, 22 weeks. Caleb stepped in smoothly. "We found out at the scan," he said. "It's not good." He showed me ultrasound images on his phone. A perfect little profile, a spine, a tiny hand. Then he swiped to a document full of medical words. The paper looked too clean, too fresh, like it had come straight from a home printer. "What is this?" I asked. "A diagnosis," Caleb said. Marina inhaled sharply, as if my question hurt her. "It's genetic," she whispered. "Rare. The baby might not survive without treatment." Caleb leaned forward, voice low and urgent. "Treatment isn't covered fully. There's testing, specialists, travel. If we don't raise money quickly, we miss the window." Then he showed me a fundraiser page. Marina's photo was the cover image, her hand on her belly, a soft smile, an innocent pose. The caption mentioned a rare genetic disorder, urgent intervention, time running out. The goal was $50,000. Beneath it, donations and prayers and comments from strangers who were pouring their kindness into a story they believed. I felt my throat tighten with a kind of rage that made my hands shake. "This is wrong," I said. Caleb's expression didn't change. "What's the alternative?" "The alternative is you don't parade her pregnancy like a product," I said. "You don't manipulate strangers with a baby story." Marina's face crumpled, almost convincing. "He said we have to," she whispered. He said nobody cares unless you make them care. I looked at Caleb and saw the kind of men I used to shut down on job sites. Men who cut corners and smiled while they did it. Men who could burn a building down with their choices and still sleep. "You're exploiting her," I said. "And if those documents are fake, if you're lying." Caleb's jaw tightened. "I'm trying to save a child." I left their house with Marina's practiced tears in my ears, and Caleb's fundraiser page burned into my mind. On the drive home, I called an old friend, Ray, retired now, who spent his last years on the job in fraud. I told him what I'd seen. I told him the way my skin crawled. Ray listened and then said, "If money is being raised on deception, report it. Let the system pull the thread." I pulled over, sat with my hands on the wheel, and stared at my reflection in the windshield. Then I did what I thought was right. I filed a police report against Caleb. I said I believed there was fraud, coercion, falsified medical documents, exploitation. The officer took my statement calmly, the way they do, like stacking paper in a cabinet. I went home and didn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I was on my computer, staring at the fundraiser page again, watching the total climb. At 3 a.m., I zoomed in on the ultrasound. No patient name, no date, no facility, just a baby. At 5 a.m., I drove back to Marina's house. I told myself I was checking on her. I told myself I was making sure she was safe. I told myself Caleb might be pressuring her. I knocked. No answer. I walked around back. The kitchen light was on. The sliding door was locked. I stood there listening. No voices, no movement. Only the refrigerator hum. Then I noticed something under the eave above the back door. A security camera. Small, blinking. Marina never had cameras. She used to laugh at people who did. Caleb installed that, I thought. Caleb was watching her. On my way out, I passed the laundry room window. The blinds were crooked with a thin gap. And through that gap I saw something pale and round hanging off the back of a chair. It looked like skin. My stomach dropped. It didn't move like a body. It hung like an object. A costume. I went home shaking. At 9:20 a.m., Marina called. Her voice was bright. "Grandpa," she said like nothing happened. "Caleb says you're mad. Why are you mad?" "Because you're being used," I said. Silence, then a soft sigh. "He's just trying to help," she said. "Help who?" I asked. "You," she said. And then she laughed. Not joy, not relief. A small, controlled laugh like she'd almost forgotten how people are supposed to sound. "You always think you're the only one who can fix things," she murmured. Then she hung up. I sat holding the phone and let the thought I didn't want creep in. What if Marina isn't the victim? That afternoon, the police called back. They said Caleb was cooperative, concerned. They said Marina was consenting. They said Caleb asked to meet me man to man. We met at a diner. Cracked booths, coffee too hot, a place where truth and lies both looked the same under fluorescent light. Caleb was already there. He stood when I approached, trying to look respectful. His hands trembled. "I didn't think you'd actually do it," he said. "Report me." "You shouldn't be doing what you're doing," I said. He swallowed hard and leaned in. "She isn't pregnant," he whispered. The words didn't land like words. They landed like a fist. "You're lying," I said, but my voice came out weak. Caleb reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded piece of silicone, and laid it on the table. A fake pregnancy belly. Flesh-colored, veined, real enough to make me feel sick. "Her laundry room," he said. "She left it out, like she wanted me to see, like she wanted to remind me who controls what." My mind reeled. "You built the fundraiser," I said. He nodded once. "I did." "Then you're guilty," I said. His face twisted with shame. "I know. I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm asking you to listen. She has something on me." He said it quietly, like confession. "Tessa," he said. My wife. Your granddaughter's daughter. She's pregnant. My chest tightened. 9 weeks, he continued. Only me and Marina know. Tessa doesn't want anyone to know yet. She's terrified something will go wrong. He took a breath. Marina found out. She went through Tessa's things and found the test. She hugged her, smiled, congratulated her. And then she told me if I don't do what she says, she'll tear my marriage apart, tell Tessa's father things, make sure I never see my child. He looked down at his hands. She said she'd do worse if I tried to leave. I stared at him, trying to reconcile the little girl who fell asleep on my shoulder with a woman who blackmailed her own family. Why come to me? I asked. Because you filed the report, he said. Because the police are already looking. Because if I go down alone, she walks away clean. Then he slid his phone across the table. On the screen was a group chat, Mama's Miracle Circle. I scrolled with a finger that didn't feel like mine. Photos of women holding bellies, tearful update videos, scripts, targets, instructions on what to say when someone asked for hospital proof. A message from Marina sat in the middle like a knife. Use the word rare. People panic. If they ask for paperwork, say privacy laws. Then cry. Don't wear the belly too high. People notice. My mouth went dry. How many? I asked. I've counted 8, Caleb said. Maybe more. The diner suddenly felt too bright, too small. I had reported the wrong person. Or worse, I had reported one piece of a machine and alerted the machine that I was watching. I should have walked out. I should have taken the phone straight to the police. Instead, I looked at Caleb and said, If you're telling the truth, we end this. How? He whispered. We don't chase her, I said. We let her come to us. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Marina. I answered and kept my voice flat. Grandpa, she said warmly. How are you? I'm fine. I heard you talk to Caleb, she said. A cold thread ran up my spine. She had him watched, tracked, or he'd slipped. He wanted to clear things up, I said carefully. A pause, then a small laugh. I'm coming by later, she said. I don't want misunderstandings. Come by, I said. When I hung up, my hands were shaking. She's coming, I told Caleb. She's going to test me. I set up small cameras in my living room, kitchen, hallway. Ray had a few left from old work. He didn't ask why. Maybe he already knew. I called the detective assigned to my report and said I had reason to believe the fundraiser was part of a wider scheme. I told him I would have more soon. At 6:47 p.m., Marina pulled into my driveway. She walked up my steps in soft clothes, hair done, makeup just right to look exhausted and radiant. She hugged me and smelled like expensive perfume, like she was dressed for a stage. She sat in my living room like she owned it. You're upset, she said gently. I don't like what Caleb is doing, I said. It's our story, she replied. What did the doctor say? I asked. It's rare, she said, smooth. We need specialists. Which hospital? I asked. The one in the city. Name it. Her eyes hardened for a heartbeat. Grandpa, she murmured, why are you interrogating me? Because money is involved, I said. She leaned forward and lowered her voice into something intimate. You always need to be the hero, she said. You always need to feel useful. Then she slid an envelope across my table. A letter from the clinic, she said. Open it. The paper inside was clean, vague, full of medical language, with a signature that meant nothing. There's no doctor's number, I said. Does it matter? Marina asked, and the question didn't sound like a plea. It sounded like a warning. You shouldn't have filed that police report, she whispered, still smiling. I kept my voice steady. If everything is real, there's nothing to fear. For a second, her mask slipped. Then she stood. "You look tired. I should go." At the door she turned back and said, "Sweet as honey over glass. Family takes care of family. Don't forget that." After she left, I stood in the doorway and knew with absolute certainty she wasn't afraid. She was calculating. That night, Caleb called me. She texted me. She wants a big update tomorrow. She wants to push donations. "Good," I said. "Let her." "She gets reckless when she's scared," he whispered. "That's what we need," I said. The next day, Caleb posted a dramatic update. Critical window. Baby might not make it. A photo of Marina in bed with her hand on her belly. Donations surged. People were desperate to be part of a rescue. And that was when I called Marina and told her I was ready to help. She came over with a smile that looked almost satisfied. I told her I wanted to give $10,000. Her eyes lit up so fast she couldn't hide it. "Oh, Grandpa," she breathed, "you're saving us." "But I want to do it properly," I said. "I want to meet the doctor. I want a real scan. Today." Marina didn't argue. She simply said, "Okay." That's when I realized how practiced she was. She didn't improvise. She produced. 2 days later, she scheduled a consult at a clinic in the city. Caleb told me, "She's going to show you a fake doctor, fake paperwork, make you feel ashamed." "Then we film it," I said. The address wasn't a clinic. It was an office suite above a nail salon. A sign by the door read Wellness Consulting. Marina stood outside in a long maternity dress, belly perfect, smile serene. Inside, a woman in scrubs greeted her like an old friend. No ID badge, no name tag, hair perfect. Nails painted the same pale pink I'd seen on the women downstairs. She began speaking in vague medical authority. Markers, intervention, multidisciplinary approach. I let her talk. Then I asked one question. "What's your license number?" The woman blinked. Marina's head snapped toward me. "Grandpa," Marina whispered, warning. "License number," I repeated calmly. "Every provider has one." The woman's eyes flicked to Marina. Marina gave her a small, sharp smile. The woman said, "I think we should continue another time." In the hallway, Marina leaned close to my ear. "You're embarrassing yourself," she hissed. "Take me to a real hospital," I said. "Scan today." Her eyes flashed. She smiled again and said loud enough for the fake doctor to hear, "Of course. We'll do whatever you need, Grandpa." Then, softer, only for me and Caleb, she added, "If you push, you will lose people." Caleb went pale. The threat wasn't meant for me alone. She was talking about Tessa. That was the moment the family drama became a criminal operation. We went straight to the detective with footage from my house, audio from the fake consult, and the group chat. As he scrolled, his skepticism turned into anger. "We need money flow," he said. "Names, events." I told him about Marina's fundraiser brunch on Friday. Caleb nodded. "Miracle Mamas," he said quietly. "She's calling it a support circle. It's a pipeline." The plan was simple. Let them stage the event, then take it down with witnesses and evidence, not rumors. Friday arrived. The fundraiser was held in a hall attached to a church on the edge of town. Pastel balloons, paper storks, white folding chairs, a banner. "Miracle Mamas, hope for rare babies." People walked in with gift bags and casseroles and envelopes. They hugged women in maternity dresses. They prayed. They cried. They said things like, "God chose you because you're strong." And it was all built on lies. I sat in the back. Caleb sat 2 rows ahead, shoulders locked tight. Plainclothes officers slipped in through side doors and took positions near exits. Unmarked vehicles waited outside. Marina moved through the room like a queen. Cream dress, perfect belly, voice soft, eyes bright. When she saw me, she called out loudly, "Grandpa!" Donors smiled at me, the supportive elder finally on board. Speakers took turns telling stories. Same pattern every time. Rare, urgent, expensive. People opened wallets and hearts like doors. Then Marina took the microphone. "Thank you for believing," she said. "Thank you for loving." Applause. She spoke about powerlessness, about community, about saving babies together. She was so good at it I felt sick. I watched faces in the crowd. Older couples crying, young parents nodding, a businessman slipping a thick envelope into the donation box like he was buying redemption. Then Marina said, "We're launching our next step, a foundation, a way to expand." Seed funding, she called it. That's when I saw 3 men by the side wall. Not donors, not family. They watched the room like inventory. One had a tablet. Another moved quietly, checking his phone. Caleb met my eyes and nodded. He saw them too. Marina's voice brightened. "I want to introduce someone who inspires me." She turned toward the front row. "My grandfather." The room erupted in applause. Marina beckoned. "Come up, Grandpa. Say a few words." This was her trap. She wanted me on record endorsing her story. She wanted to bind me to her with my own voice. I walked to the stage through smiling faces and climbed the steps. She handed me the microphone, eyes shining, whispering, "Tell them how proud you are." I faced the crowd. "My name is Harold," I said, "and I'm 72 years old." The room quieted. "I've lived long enough to know the difference between faith and manipulation," I said. The air shifted. "I came here because I love my family," I continued. "I came here because I believed my granddaughter was carrying a sick child." Marina's smile tightened. "And I came here because I found out the child does not exist." A shock ran through the hall. Gasps, whispers, a nervous laugh from someone who couldn't process it. Marina stepped closer, voice tight. "Grandpa, stop." "There is no baby," I said. "There is no diagnosis. There is no clinic." People stood up. Someone shouted, "What are you saying?" I turned slightly and looked toward the men by the wall. "This isn't just about my family," I said. "This is a business." That's when Marina grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise and hissed, "You are ruining everything." I pulled free. The side doors opened. Plainclothes officers moved in. The detective stepped forward with his badge. Chaos erupted. Marina's eyes widened for a fraction of a second. Then she screamed and dropped to her knees, clutching her belly. "My baby! Oh God, my baby!" Donors surged toward her, instinctively trying to help. She was weaponizing their kindness one last time. The detective pushed through, crouched, and said something low. Marina kept wailing. Then he reached down, grabbed the hem of her dress, and pulled. The silicone belly shifted, the seam visible for a heartbeat. The hall went dead silent. The detective stood up, holding the fake belly like evidence. "This is fraud," he announced. "This is staged deception to obtain money. If you donated today, you need to stay and give a statement." Marina stopped screaming. She looked up at him with hatred, then turned her eyes on me. In her stare I saw calculation, not fear. She didn't fight as they cuffed her. She straightened her dress, lifted her chin, and walked with the officers as if she were still in control. The men by the wall tried to slip away. Officers intercepted them at the exits. People cried. Some shouted. Some looked sick. Some demanded their money back, as if money was the only thing stolen. I stood on that stage with the microphone still in my hand and felt like I'd detonated a bomb inside my own bloodline. Caleb found me in the chaos, face wet with tears. "Tessa," he whispered. "Where is she?" Tessa hadn't come. Marina had insisted it was too emotional. Now I understood. Tessa was Marina's shield. Marina kept her away because she didn't want her daughter's real tears to complicate the performance. Caleb and I left fast and drove to their apartment. Caleb called Tessa repeatedly. No answer. When we arrived, the door was ajar. Inside, the living room looked disturbed. A lamp overturned. A chair knocked sideways. Caleb ran to the bedroom. I moved toward the bathroom and heard a muffled sob. I knocked hard. "Tessa?" The door cracked open. Tessa's face appeared, pale, shaking. "Grandpa?" she whispered. Caleb pulled her into his arms like she was falling. "She came here," Tessa sobbed. "Mom came. She was angry. She said you were trying to destroy her. She said if I didn't apologize, she would ruin us." Tessa looked up at me, eyes pleading. "Is she okay? Is the baby okay?" I swallowed. "Tessa, there is no baby." Tessa froze. Her hand went to her mouth. Caleb whispered, "Your mom isn't pregnant." Tessa shook her head, frantic. "No, I saw—" "You saw what she wanted you to see," I said gently. She sank onto the couch and started to sob in a quiet, broken way. Not drama. Collapse. Caleb knelt in front of her. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "She trapped me." Tessa's eyes snapped to him. "Were you part of it?" Caleb didn't lie. He nodded. Tessa's face twisted with betrayal. "She threatened you," he said, voice shaking. "She threatened our baby." Tessa went still. "Our baby." Her hand drifted to her stomach. That was the cruelest part of Marina's scheme. She didn't just steal money. She poisoned the very idea of pregnancy inside her own daughter's life. That night, the three of us ended up in my house like survivors of a storm. Tessa slept in my late wife's old room. Caleb sat at my kitchen table, staring at nothing. At 2:30 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Marina's voice slid into my ear like poison. "Congratulations," she said softly. "You got your moment." "Marina?" I said. "They told you the charges?" she asked, amused. "It's a long list. I'm impressed." "You did this to yourself," I said. She inhaled as if savoring my anger. "You think I did this alone?" she asked. My throat tightened. "There are people," she continued, voice almost gentle. "Smarter than you, meaner than you. They didn't like you breaking their toy." "Who?" I demanded. She laughed. "You'll find out." Then she whispered, "Sleep tight, Grandpa," and hung up. I sat in my dark kitchen and understood something that made my anger turn cold. Marina was not just a liar. She was part of a system. And if we walked away, someone else would pick up her script and keep going. The next weeks were ugly and fast. Caleb cooperated fully. He handed over devices, passwords, group chats, donation logs. He confessed his role and did not pretend he was clean. He sold what he could, took extra work, and put everything toward restitution under supervision. Remorse is easy to fake, but it is hard to maintain when it costs you sleep, comfort, pride. He paid in all three. The investigation widened. Mama's Miracle Circle wasn't a support group. It was a production line. Women were recruited, coached, scripted. They were trained to stage belly progression, to recycle ultrasound images, to steal NICU photos from the internet, to copy medical phrasing, to weaponize privacy laws when questioned. Urgency was the key. Urgency melts logic. They targeted churches, workplaces, parenting groups, older relatives, anyone with guilt and love and money. And those men I saw at the wall, they weren't organizers in the way Marina was. They were collection. The ones who handled the back end, cash pickups, account transfers, pressure. Marina managed the front end. She was the face, the coach, the director. She scheduled posts, distributed scripts, assigned roles, taught tears. She even kept a file of phrases designed to make donors feel responsible if they didn't give. Reading it made me feel physically ill. Some of the women involved were greedy, some were desperate, some were both. Not all of them understood who they were feeding at the top. A few did, but Marina knew. When she finally sat across from me in a visitation room, she wore a plain uniform. No belly, no stage, no spotlight. She smiled when she saw me. "Hi, Grandpa," she said softly. "Why?" I asked. She tilted her head as if I'd asked something childish. "Because it worked," she said. "You used babies," I said. "I used stories," she corrected. "People love stories." "You used your own daughter," I said. For the first time her eyes flickered. Not remorse, irritation. "Tessa is dramatic," she said. I stared at her, feeling something in me ache and harden at the same time. "You don't feel it," I whispered. "Any of it." Marina leaned forward slightly. "Oh, I feel plenty," she said. "I feel annoyed you ruined something I built. I feel irritated you made me look foolish." Then she smiled again, and it was small and sharp. "And I feel curious," she added, "how far you're willing to go to pretend you're still the family savior." She wanted to cut me. She wanted me to react like the old man she thought she could steer. I didn't give her the reaction. "You're going to prison," I said. "You're going to sit in a place where you can't perform, where you can't feed on kindness." Her smile wavered. "And when you get out," I continued, "you won't have Tessa. You won't have her child. You won't have me." Marina's eyes flashed. "You don't get to take my family away." "You already did," I said quietly. Silence filled the room. Then she leaned back and said almost conversationally, "You think this ends with me?" I held her gaze. "Is that a threat?" "It's a reminder," she murmured. "You embarrassed people who don't forgive." I stood up. As I left, she snapped, "You'll regret this." I didn't turn around. My regret had already happened. It was the moment I believed her tears and didn't check for seams. Marina was convicted. Others were charged. The network cracked. Not all money was recovered. Some donors will never see their funds again, and that fact sits heavy on my chest because their kindness deserved better. But the cruelest damage wasn't financial. After the scandal, parents with real sick children came forward quietly, terrified no one would believe them anymore. That is what Marina stole at the deepest level: trust. Tessa's pregnancy was confirmed, privately, safely, with a doctor who didn't speak in vague phrases. When she learned her baby was healthy, she cried until her whole body shook. Relief and grief braided together because her own mother had poisoned a sacred thing. In late summer, Tessa gave birth to a small, furious, healthy child. The first time I held that baby, I felt my throat tighten, not because it was a miracle, but because it was real. And after months of staged emotion, reality felt like the most precious weight I'd ever carried. People ask me if I hate Marina. Hate is simple. What I feel is heavier. I feel sorrow for the little girl who used to fall asleep on my shoulder and promise she would never scare me. I feel fury at the woman who learned exactly how to weaponize love. And I feel a cold, steady resolve that surprised me at my age. Because the day Marina tried to use a fake unborn child to control me, she expected me to fold. She expected an old man to be soft. Instead, she discovered the thing people forget about men who have lived this long. We have already buried too much. We have already lost people we loved. We have already watched the world do its worst. And when you finally push someone like that past the point of denial, you don't get a loud explosion. You get something quieter. You get a man who stops arguing, stops pleading, stops hoping a liar will become honest. You get a man who chooses pain over poison. The truth is painful, but lies are lethal. And I chose pain.